This is Aromie here. Welcome back to our live Baxter DLC. We are here making party favors. In the evening, the wedding group chat popped up with a new text. Another entirely casual, exceedingly normal update from Baxter Ward. It noted that you'd meet tomorrow morning to discuss today's accomplishments and plan next steps. During the process, some sparks flew between allies. It couldn't be helped. Debates over which trees were best was inevitable, and those always became serious. Overall, though, you were a unified force. Then as night fell, your team effort brought about the completion of the collection. On one side of the room was a stack of stylish table settings, each with a thoughtfully compiled bag of candy sitting on top. On the other end was enough garbage to fill a dump truck. That was going to be a hassle. But Terry and Miranda were allowed to tap out when the favors were done. It was already getting late. For dinner, takeout was ordered so nobody had to cook or clean another meal after hours of putting the little favors together. No complaints there. For a little while, the three of you could pretend the work was already over for real. No one mentioned the chaos that was waiting one room away. But when everyone was full, Jude wandered back into the living room turned workshop. He heaved a sigh and tossed a random piece of trash in a garbage can. It was a drop in the ocean. The entire living room was a mess of wrappers, paper scraps, and undefinable crafting residue. Scott hovered nearby, his features drawn apologetically. The lighthearted atmosphere you shared as a team earlier in the day had shattered. All that remained was the fractured debris. And it went beyond pre-wedding jitters. After months of planning, Jude had reached a point where he wanted the preparation to be over. He was worn down, and little victories weren't able to lift his mood. All he saw was what was still left. Meanwhile, Scott only seemed to become more invested, more concerned over how it came together as the deadline approached. Your stomach was in knots. You were stuck right in the middle of a very personal matter with nowhere to go. We can clean this later. Let's play something. Sure. Scott blurted out an agreement instantly. If Jude had asked him to do a backflip for his entertainment, Scott probably would have in that moment.
Alright.
Want to join? He tilted his head your way. You waved your hands back and forth. Thanks, but I'm gonna go to my room. The two had spent the entire day with other people. You weren't going to get in the way of them having some quality couple time in the final labor. Alright. Jude gave you a half shrug and half smile. He was on to what you were doing. Have a good night, Michiko. Good night. Your hosts retired for the day, happier than they'd been since you first showed up. It was a relief. You made your own way to the guest room. The rest of the night would be yours. Let's call Cove. Cove was going to be at the wedding as a normal guest. He couldn't make it sooner to join the party planning committee. To be fair, he did arrive earlier for your mom's anniversary the last time you both had to visit the area. It was your turn to go before him. But after what happened that day, you could use a conversation with someone who'd be happy to hear from you. Fucking heartbroken. While waiting for him to answer, you wondered what he would have done if he had been there to see Baxter himself. You got the feeling he would have made an even bigger scene than you. That line of thought was cut off by the phone line being picked up.
Hey.
Oh. Our childhood friend. Hey, Michiko. Hearing the familiar voice brought a smile to your face immediately. Cove was one constant you could count on. Imagine when you can't. How are you? Is everything okay with the wedding? It was hard to say what counted as okay, given the extenuating circumstances of the planning. But that wasn't the topic you called to explain. You came right out with the shock of the century. June and Scott's wedding planners, Baxter Ward. Baxter Ward? No, wait. Kay rolled the name over his tongue, catching the recognizable way it flowed. He said it before, but where and why? You gave him a second. That guy! He got it. Yes, that guy.
Seriously?
And he's just there? Yes. What are you going to do? There was panic in his reaction. Of course he'd be nervous. This was about the worst possible time for that guy to materialize from the ether. I'm gonna see how it goes. A little noise didn't sound convinced, but he made an attempt to reassure you and himself.
It's okay.
I'll be there soon, and we've got Terry and Miranda. Whatever Baxter does, it won't change that. Thanks, Cove. You're so sweet. Though you don't need to worry so much. You could hear the gentle smile in Cove's voice. If you close your eyes, you could convince yourself he was by your side already. Okay. After the dust settled from that bomb, you two spent time chatting on other matters. But all too soon you had left the conversation end. On the promise of seeing each other soon, you hung up. Getting even a brief chance to speak with Cove was heartening. Everything was done for the moment anyway. You finally had a space to think about something other than wedding worries or Baxter's bothers, at least for a little while. Some time for just yourself was well deserved, and you managed to enjoy your relaxation before slipping off to bed. Then all of a sudden it was morning and you were off to the proper second meeting with the planner. Everyone once again gathered in Baxter's office, waiting for him to arrive, and in turn, Jude and Scott were tense. The closer the wedding got, the further they were from gaining any semblance of peace. No matter how much they tried to unwind outside of the meetings, the moment they returned to the chic office, their discomfort skyrocketed. The way Scott's fingers were fidgeting in his lap. You could almost believe that he was anxiously twisting the tension in the air. Miranda frowned, unable to disregard the worsening creases in her brother's brow.
So...
This rug reminds me of Baxter, from before anyway. She didn't elaborate for those not there before, and the awkward silence sent Terry into a fit of laughter. He pointed at the striped rug.
Yeah.
That's so true. It's literally the first Baxter-like thing I've seen. What about his business cards? His phone was all black too, his card is black and white, to no one's surprise. He doesn't do that anymore. He looked at the floor skeptically, sat quietly. His phone. I feel like if we mentioned his phone, they'll be like, what? Or is that too detailed? His phone was all black too.
Ooh.
Good catch. 3 monochrome points for us. 0 for Terry.
Ooh.
Hey, when was this a competition? I thought we were having a friendly discussion. You pumped your fist victoriously, and Miranda giggled at the silliness of the exchange. Terry's jaw dropped. Randy looked at her brother and Scott, noticing their lack of input on the subject. She knew they would need a little context to join in on the joke, but neither even acknowledged her presence. The couple was too absorbed in their own worries for their stony expressions to crack from her icebreaker. She folded her hands neatly in her lap and made no further attempts at a chat. You and Terry shared a knowing glance and decided to also stay quiet. June and Scott weren't in the mood. Shortly after, there was a knock on the door. Everyone snapped out of their thought bubbles and swiveled towards each other instead of moving to answer it. Hello? The door opened and Baxter cheerfully stepped inside his office. His notepad was already open to a fresh page.
Nice to see you.
Morning and welcome back. Thank you for waiting. A round of greetings bubbled up from the planning party committee while Baxter moved through the room. He promptly sat on the rolling chair opposite the couch and clicked his pen out. Now that we're all here, we should begin. Let's go over where things stand and determine how to proceed next. Scott sat straighter on the purple couch and stiffly nodded. Jude, in contrast, slouched further into the cushion. Alright. So yesterday an order was put in for your wedding cake. I can assure you it'll be ready on the day of the ceremony.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Of course.
Baxter carefully placed his pen tip to the notepad. His expression grew more serious all of a sudden. Speaking of the cake, I must give a small disclaimer. There is a tradition called cake smashing. I'm not sure if either of you are familiar with that. It merely means one or both members of the wedding couple slather cake into the face of their partner. I strongly suggest that you decide beforehand who, if either, will participate and to what degree of messiness. I cannot tell you how easy it is to sour the entire day by accidentally crossing a simple boundary line. There's a sad history of partners who find ignoring the wishes of their husband, wife, or spouse to be funny and realize far too late that it's absolutely not. Alarmed, Jude and Scott stared at Baxter. You were certain that neither had even considered any of those possibilities. Do you wanna?
No.
No, I don't. Do you?
No.
No way. Then can we not do it at all? Do we have that option? Certainly. We don't have to include any tradition besides your own. The couple simultaneously sighed in relief. They peeked at the other and shared an amused grin. The first time either had smiled all morning. Baxter stole a moment to jot down a note.
Glad to hear it.
I'm delighted we're all on the same page. Moving right along, you worked on guest favors and decorations, correct? Have you finished, or will you be continuing with that task? We're done.
What?
We are done with the guest favors, but... Scott anxiously laced his fingers and pressed his palms together in his lap. His knuckles turned white. Whenever he had anything to say about wedding plans, it became a trial of trying to avoid a disagreement. It's fine to explain what's on your mind. That's why we're all here. There's no way to compromise or find a solution if you won't even have the discussion. That surprised you. Baxter's ability to confidently and kindly handle issues in this kind of setting was admirable, but also completely ironic. You knew what he was like on a personal level, and this was a big do as I say, not as I do kind of flag. Swelling thickly, the defeat in Scott's expression didn't seem so dire anymore. He was more willing to take on the challenge with Baxter on his side. I also wanted more decorations, specifically the main thing for a reception. We don't have that. Centerpieces? Yes, that's what I meant. We need to buy all the parts, but if we kept the design simple, then I think we could be done before the wedding. After getting his thoughts out, Scott risked a glance at his fiancée. Jude closed his eyes tiredly and took a deep breath. Let's go to the store. It's gotta be done today.
That'd be cool.
Awesome, cool. And I can go without you, if you don't want to.
It's fine.
I'll do it. No. Scott's joy vanished. Jude didn't hide an ounce of irritation in his voice. He was forcing himself to go along with this rather than taking any true interest, and he was making that fact crystal clear. Come on, Jude. She poked on the side of his arm with a forceful jab, and Jude shooed her off. His frown worsened into a scowl. I already said I'd do it. Okay, it's one thing to say you'll do it, but it's also another thing saying you'll do it because you want to do it, not because you feel obligated to do it.
I understand.
I believe you're right, Scott. There will be room to pick out some materials that can be arranged into a lovely centerpiece. The process can be quite low effort and look wonderful, so I'm taking it that shopping for decorations will be a big task of the day. Scott watched Jude a few seconds longer before answering. He nodded slowly. Before the window of opportunity closes, is there anything that you would want to include, Jude? Anything you'd enjoy? It doesn't even have to be a typical wedding feature. There are no limits on what your own ceremony or reception can have.
No.
He folded his arms across his chest, and you wondered how deep Jude was about to dig in his heels. I don't want anything else. We're almost finished. Why am I on top of it? Randy sighed. Terry slightly bit his lip. That was a track you'd gone down before repeatedly. It was always the same point of contention with Jude, but today Scott was emboldened. Enough that he muttered his long-held back grievance anyway.
Why are you being like this?
If you don't have anything to contribute, can you at least stop trying to take away what I think of? Oh, Jude's eyes snapped wide open. He swiftly pulled in his shock and replaced it with a distinctly unimpressed stare. I didn't take anything away from you, and I did contribute in the planning stage. We're past that, it's done. But since there's time, we could...
Come on.
We've been putting this thing together for weeks, hell, months in some ways. I've been to more parties than you, and I've planned more. You need to relax. Whoa, bro. Jude went to brush back some of his curls, but his fingers tightened and dug into his scalp instead. Bewildered, his gaze flickered around the room. Scott doesn't even like parties. I don't get his issue. We have a planner now. He can figure this shit out. Why even have him if we're gonna still be spending every hour before the wedding working on crap? Jude's flash of anger dimmed as quickly as it had flared. He redirected his attention to Baxter apologetically. No offense, dude. It's not your fault. None taken on my account. The pinch in Baxter's features made you think he was fairly miffed on behalf of someone else. Continuing the trend of speaking directly to the audience, Scott offered his side of the fence.
It's true.
Everything Jude said is true. I've never planned a party, and yeah, I haven't been invited to many either, but we're the people making this one. I don't want it to be an awkward embarrassment. All of our friends and family are coming. I can't stand the idea that they'll leave wondering why the hell they even came in the first place. Scott began his explanation sad, but the longer he spoke, the more his own frustration grew. And having a planner doesn't mean we can drop everything onto someone else. The entire point was so more could get done. At least that's why I wanted an expert to help. I'm not interested in half-assing it, and if Jude doesn't want to do anything else, he doesn't have to.
Aww.
But all I've said against him the entire time is he should stop making me feel guilty for not giving up. Jude chucked his own self-imposed pretense and shot back directly at Scott. You shouldn't have to do anything either. That's my whole point. But if you keep taking on stupid crafting projects, then I have to handle some of it for you. But it's not needed. Nobody cares that much. I care, even if I'm the only one. Oh, come on. That's not what I meant.
Right.
Right, Jude. It really sounds like you're invested. Alright, couples arguing. Awkward. And that was the end of their discussion. This meeting had not gone to plan, and the discomfort was reaching suffocating levels. Baxter leaned back against his chair, crossing his legs. Let's take a pause to breathe and assess what's happening here. There's nothing wrong with caring about your wedding. However, it is a truly draining experience to create a massive and important event from the ground up. That's why we have planners, so there should be an understanding for that as well. Now, as the expert here, I must ask an important question. Both Jude and Scott nodded. Their gazes become glued to Baxter. Anything other than each other. Slowly, Baxter untwisted himself and leaned forward, almost lifting out of his seat. What are your opinions on bowling? What the hell? Bowling is a casual sport, popular with almost all ages.
Hold on.
Dude, he knows what bowling is. He's asking why that was your important question. You can't be telling me people have bowling at their weddings. Baxter considered that remark with a smirk. He tapped the side of his cheek twice. No one has ever done that at any of the weddings I've helped plan, but I wouldn't be surprised if some couples out in the world set up a game or two of lawn bowling for their guests.
Maybe.
Or perhaps even held a reception at a bowling alley. Interesting. Though that's not what I had in mind. I wish to invite the 5 of you to bowl with me today. Right now, preferably. My treat. What? Perplexed, Scott pushed his glasses up. He was at a loss for words. I'd do it. What? I said I'd do it. You would? Ju's answer confused Scott further. He gauged the room and Terry offered him a thumbs up.
Fun.
I love bowling. Sounds fun. He's paying.
Agreed.
So whatever, bro. It's like our first date again, but not first date. Yeah. Terry put forward a high five that you gladly accepted with a loud slap. Just about everyone was thrilled by the prospect of getting out of this office and stretching their legs. But Scott retained the final say. He tightened his already taut ponytail. Alright, we can go do that. I think he's just doing it to let the guys chillax a little bit. Because there's obvious tension and they don't have time for themselves. At least not in the way they would prefer it. But anyway, this is where we're going to end today's episode off. You know, event planning sounds terrible through this point of view. Which I'm sure happens a lot. Where one couple wants more and the other couple is like, come on. Well, I thought we were done. I just want to relax. Type of thing. But thank you guys for watching today's episode. Stay beautiful and I'll see you guys in the next one.